What do you think? What is the overall impact of the new tariffs imposed on the world and the Indian economy?
Tariffs would definitely have an impact, but we should have a wait and watch approach.
Which are the specific sectors that are likely to be impacted in India the most?
Most of it, the biggest one was.
Do you think there are prospects of the world economy, if I say, which are going into recession?
It's too early to talk about recession. It will have both positive and negative impacts.
China has DeepSeek and we have Gemini, ChatGPT, everything. So what is India coming up with?
We should have confidence in India's talent and India's capability, right? And I think I clearly see a huge potential there.
India should do to race ahead in deep tech ecosystem as per the vision of the Honorable Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal.
Yeah, I think three areas where we definitely need to look into it. First is
Hello viewers, this is Savera and you're watching The Savera. Today we have with us Mr. Abhishek, Senior Partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, an industry leader, and I'm sure I don't need to say how successful he is at the forefront of global financial transformation we are all witnessing currently. With over 2 decades of expertise in finance, audits and compliance, he has played a critical role in shaping businesses' strategies across major global markets. So, we welcome you to The Savera and thank you for taking out the time for this.
Thank you, Siraj. Thanks for your time.
Now, I'll move on to the topic of the conversation today. The global economy is at a pivotal juncture with shifting trade policies as we're witnessing currently and the latest tariffs. Trump heading the headlines currently and imposing these tariffs under Trump's administration, which are set to have a ripple effect worldwide. India, as a key global player, stands to gain or lose in various sectors. Today, we will explore how these tariffs impact the Indian economy, the threat of a possible recession, and the way forward for India's tech ecosystem, especially in the context of deep tech innovations. So now, speaking of these tariffs, sir, what do you think? What is the overall impact of the new tariffs imposed on the world and the Indian economy, to be specific?
So, Sira, I think that's the talk of the town, right? Everyone is talking about these tariffs, and this is the buzzword these days, right? Even in Google search, it was one of the top 3 themes. Tariffs was the top 3 themes which emerged, and I know a lot of people woke late in the night to hear about these, right? So, I think I would say it accounts for an interesting time, and that's what we are looking at. These tariffs are actually altering the name of the game, right? In that sense, and US is a very important country, right? US is almost $30 trillion of economy. Almost, if you look into it, US is number 1 or number 2 partner for almost 40 major countries in the world, right? So it's a very substantial partner for them, and it accounts for greater than 15% of the global trade with almost 33 or 35 countries in the world. So it's a very, very needless. I mean, it's stating the obvious that it's one of the major partners in that sense, and that's where we are focusing on, and that's where we are driving upon, right? I think it will have an impact, but I think I would advise more wait and watch approach, right? So obviously on Indian economy, it will have some higher impact on agriculture sector, dairy product sector, gems and jewelry sector. That's where it will have an impact. But I would say from an India perspective, we have, as everyone is saying, right? India has been levied with tariffs, which will impact some of these sectors which I spoke about. But as compared to, say, China and Southeast Asia, the tariffs haven't been that high. And though we will see an impact on these particular areas, but the largest sector which India has, which is tech services, right? I think the tech services problem will not be tariffs, I would say, and the tariff impact has been minimal, but it would be the growth coming from the US economy and how much they can tap into the growth potential, how much they can drive their revenue going forward. So in summary, what I would say is that tariffs would definitely have an impact, but we should have a wait and watch approach. How will US react? How will these scenarios play out? Is it more of a negotiating tactic where they want everyone to come on a negotiating table? Like Vietnam has already reduced tariffs, right? And they are willing to talk with US and looking to do that. So we'll have to see a more wait and watch approach. In the short term, obviously, we will see some impact, falling revenues, falling profits, etc. But I think we'll have to wait and watch and see that. India has, if I would say, has escaped the brunt of it for now. Particularly our pharma sector, tech services sector hasn't seen the impact it should have. But we should be cautious, and there will be a wait and watch approach as we go along.
All right. So, coming from a tech expert, I think we can be assured that wait and watch it is. So, I'll move on to my second question now, sir. What do you think, sir? Which are the specific sectors that are likely to be impacted in India the most?
Sure. If you look into it, India exports to US roughly around, say last year we did roughly around $77.5 billion. Most of it, the biggest one was engineering goods, gems and jewelry, pharmaceutical, and then there were other products which we have, right? And obviously, IT services remains a big component for us as well. Whereas US exports to India were primarily around petroleum, electrical machinery, and some other semi-precious metals, etc. that we look into it. US exported to India roughly around 42.2 billion. So the overall trade surplus, if you look into it, is roughly around $35 billion for India. So obviously some of these sectors, and we look into it, say engineering goods, gems and jewelry, pharma has escaped it, which is a very good thing for India sector, but it's only for that point of time. So we'll look into it. Chemical products, etc. These would be the three biggest impacting sectors: engineering goods, gems and jewelry, agri products, dairy products, and chemicals. These would be the 3-4 big impacting sectors which will get impacted by this. But I think there is an opportunity. India is negotiating the trade deal with them. I think Indian government is always very proactive and very able in that sense. So they are discussing with the US government, and hopefully we should see we should see some key developments coming out of it. I think key for us is pharma and tech services, where we have escaped the brunt in that sense, right? And to remember, US is India's first largest export partner and third largest import partner. So it's a very, very important trade partner for us in the larger scheme of things.
Right, so and it's definitely correct that India has been proactive, especially with the US for bilateral ties as well, but also if we talk about the geopolitical front and like increasing global ties, India has been the first one to respond to Myanmar for help, for relief. So that's very true. So I'll move on to my next question now, which is, what are the prospects that the US economy goes into a recession, and what will be the impact on IT services if we talk of them as a whole here?
So I think I would divide this question into two parts, right? Say IT services obviously has its own fair of challenges with AI coming in, with large digital transformation programs which they are running. Indian IT sector has been very resilient and has been very successful, and they have been able to navigate through various ups and downs over the last 3 decades, right? And have generated significant amount of employment, GDP growth for our country. Right. So that's the second part of your question. So from a tech services situation, I see tariffs is least of their worries, right? If I would say their major worry would be growth. I think with AI coming in, how do they redefine their business models? How do they look at it from that perspective? That would be very key, right? I think the major question for them is, how will AI impact them in terms of delivery models, competencies, revenue growth models, etc. So I think that's where they would need to focus on, and that's where most of their energies would go. And that's what will define the success of the next wave of success for, particularly for Indian tech services players or for global IT giants as well in that sense. So I think for IT services players, I would say the focus is on growth. How can they continue to grow, which has been a challenge for them over the last few quarters, and the AI question which they need to answer and look into it. So for tech services players, I would say tariffs is important, but not that relevant. The other two areas become much more relevant for them in that sense. From a US economy perspective, I think these fears are too early. I think we can assume these fears are too early. US economy has shown resilience over a period of time. And let's see how it plays out, right? Are these only negotiating tactics? How will it play out? How will they diversify it, etc. Right? There are a lot of other levers available with US government as well, right? What some of the analysts were telling us, that maybe US government might go for some certain tax cuts, right? So maybe that might put more cash in hand of their citizens, etc., and their spending power might increase. So I think I would say it's too early to talk about recession. Let's see how all of this plays out, how we see it's emerging in the next couple of quarters, etc. And then we can answer this question. I think recession is too early to say at this point of time. There are a lot of factors at play. How will these tariffs play out? How will the trade agreements US has with different countries play out? And how will all this pan out? So, and also there are other levers available for them with them, right? Both on the fiscal side as well as on the tax side, which they can play with and look into it as well.
Now we've spoken of US, but do you think there are prospects that of the prospects of the world economy, to if I say, which are going into recession?
I think that's again, I would say it's too early to say that. We are going through interesting time, right? We are going through a technology change at this point of time, right? Fundamental technology change. I think maybe after industrial revolution, this might be the biggest change which we are going through. I think AI will have significant impacts in what you do, what I do over next 18 to 24 months, right? So that's the significant technology change that we are looking at. It will have both positive and negative impacts in that sense, and that's how we'll play around it. And then obviously we are entering these interesting times in terms of geopolitical challenges, these tariff wars, etc. So I think I am very optimistic about global economy, right? I think we have a lot of innovation happening in the space. We have a lot of startups emerging. There is a lot of work happening around AI, quantum, etc. all across the globe. Say there are innovations happening in US, China, India, everywhere, and India is at the forefront of that, right? So I think we should be optimistic about it. There are enough, and obviously we will see these cycles which go around in the global economy, right? And we will see those challenges. But again, I would say it's too early to talk about recession. We should see how will all this play out over next 2 to 3 quarters. What is the impact of this, and what is the say entrepreneurial spirit within the citizens of this world? How we can drive it and take it forward. So that's how I will summarize.
So we'll choose optimism from now on. And coming on to my next question now. So what do you think of the comments made by our Union Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, regarding the lack of deep tech startups in India? And I have a two-part questions again. So secondly, I would say, what do you think are the reasons that China is at the frontier of this entire ecosystem?
So first of all, I think it's great that government of India is focusing on deep tech startups. I think, as I said, after industrial revolution, maybe we are at an age where we are seeing significant technology developments which will change the way we work, way we operate. It will impact various industries that we have. So I think and deep tech is a key focus area, right? And I know government of India is having significant focus on that particular area, and it should continue to focus on, right, whether AI, whether health, whether space tech, whether quantum, etc. So that's a key point to look into it. And I say there are a lot of things which needs to be done as part of this, right? I think the core question out here would be how and I think government of India is making a lot of efforts is around education, right? How do we look at our education setups? How do we make it much more amenable to new technological changes which are emerging? How can our next generation which is coming in, how are they more attuned, and we are able to unleash that entrepreneurial spirit that can be driven, and that can be looked at from that perspective. So I think India is on the right path. Obviously there is an initial ramp up time which we are looking at it, and there is a lot of investment coming in deep tech startups, right? So if you look into it, deep tech startups investment almost grew by almost 150 to 200% over the last 18 months. Obviously we need to see real players emerging in deep tech space, say something like a DeepSeek. I think the time is near when we will see something like a DeepSeek coming up in Indian domain as well, and that's where we would see some of those emerging as well. So that's how I would say. I think it's a great. I think what I like about Mr. Goyal's statement is that it's a great focus area which government has, and we should continue to focus on it and take it forward in that sense.
So actually, that's a very good point which you've spoken about DeepSeek, because other than so before asking my last question here, this was a sub-part question from the conversation that even Raghav Chadha had put up this point during his time in the session that China has DeepSeek and we have Gemini, ChatGPT, everything. So what is India coming up with? And the investment it's going into the IT sector, it's going into deep tech, but like on the AI front, it would be great if we see something emerging from India specifically.
So I think we should have confidence in India's talent and India's capability, right?
Right.
And I think I clearly see a huge potential there. I think we are on. You look, say for example, I was recently in a conference and the number of AI startups was humongous, right? And there were young minds between 25 to 35 exploring new business problems, exploring new ideas, and putting AI into play there. I'm not saying, and there is a long way to go, right? We need to have AI enterprise class use cases coming from India, which can have a global impact in that sense. I think government is making a lot of effort. We should rely on our entrepreneurial spirit and innovation, which Indians always bring into play. That needs to be done as well. Again, I will point to the education point. I think how and again, government is making a lot of efforts in that. So how do we evolve our education setups to encourage our young minds to focus on these areas? How do we get them into play, etc.? And we can learn from other places, right? Some other countries have started inculcating AI from a very young age, which India has also started to do in some of its setups. So that would be very important. So I think India will see more and more innovation coming out of it, and we are at the cusp of this at this point of time. Having said that, there is a long way to go, and we should continue to make efforts from all parties, right? From government, private sector, from entrepreneurs, from our education systems, from our funding organizations, etc. So that's how I would conclude.
I think we're leading in that way currently. So I'll come on to my last question for this conversation. What do you think India should do to race ahead in deep tech ecosystem as per the vision of the Honorable Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal?
Yeah, I think three areas where we definitely need to look into it. First is, as I spoke about, education, focus on education. How do we bring in AI into play? How do we get that? Second, I think is importance for some of these players to have some of the funding coming in, etc. That's very important, right? We need to give exposure. So, for example, like NASSCOM runs a deep tech award, right, where it felicitates some of these deep tech startups, etc. So more and more of these platforms are being created, and it's important to give these deep tech startups in India exposure to markets, particularly both India market as well as the Western markets, where they can showcase their use cases, their solutions, their products, etc. That we need to look into it. And third, I think very important is our R&D infrastructure that needs to improve, right? We need to encourage more R&Ds, particularly in some of these domains around, say, AI or quantum or space tech, etc. And that research needs to happen from India, and that needs to drive certain global level use cases, which we can look into it from that particular area. So these three areas, right? Focus on base, drive education, etc. Then give these startups exposure, funding, etc., which they can then develop upon it. And third, focus on core R&D, right? Like the 5G bed which came in India is a great example, right? We need to focus on more such innovations and make them world class and available to global markets, and where we can showcase our capabilities in that. So these are the three areas I would focus on.
Speaking of the R&D, mainly, if I can share my experience there a little bit. I had a conversation with a student of Amity University a while ago, where they had created through the university's funding, they had actually put in time and efforts to create an app which recognized crops, agricultural crops, which just taking a picture of them, they were able to recognize what will be the weather conditions next of the area, everything. Like this is for the illiterate farmers, so that they don't have to literally push ahead and cry about it. They can simply download the app and take a look at what the crops are, what weather conditions are coming ahead, and they can work accordingly. So I think investment, definitely, that's a good point. So that investment is really necessary, especially in core R&D. That's what India needs currently to grow. India has some great minds, and this could lead them way ahead.
Completely agree with you, right? I think that's where I think we should trust our talent and capabilities, and I think if investments flow in the right direction and with right focus area, we'll see amazing results. I think the next century should belong to India, right? With the talent we have, the demographic advantage we have, and our our people's ability to work hard and innovate and take it forward to the next level.
Right. True. I mean, we have 3-year-olds winning chess championships. So this could lead us somewhere else, somewhere way
Yeah.
ahead. Mhm. All right, sir. I would like to thank you for your time again. And uh, here at the Savera, it's gonna be huge speaking to you, and we'll definitely add you up. I mean, what I mean to say is that we'll definitely keep you informed about more, and would love to have a word with you again over these topics as Trump and tariffs are going ahead. So we would love to connect again. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thanks for your time and thanks for the session. Thank you.
Subscribe to our YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X handle, and don't forget to download the Savera app.